E3 is practically dead. I can't believe all the developments and details that have happened over the past week around E3, the event. It's supposed to be coming back, but as we now know, Ubisoft has pulled out of E3 2023 after they stated beforehand that they're going to have a strong E3, so they're going to have no presence at all and have their own entire event. And past that, we had Sega and Tencent dropping out of E3 as well, just having major doubt over whether this show's even going to happen. The ReedPop president resigned recently, but that's apparently been in the works for months. There's so much stuff going on, and even amongst all that, there's just rumors that E3 is going to be canceled outright. So of course, Wen is here with me. What's happening with E3, man?
The thing that we knew, what? Actually, around this time last year, yeah, exactly what we knew around this time. Actually, no, not even. Actually, what we knew around this time 2 years ago, when E3 was like kind of on the way out, we knew it wasn't gonna last. Ever since COVID, I remember that's when E3 got canceled the first time. If I'm wrong, flame me in the comment section. But I remember E3 got canceled. We were all like, "Damn, no more E3," and then everybody adapted very quickly because they were like, "Oh, what if we just put the trailers online?" And then everybody was like, "Yeah, we'll watch that." And that's how we are now. And then Summer Games Fest came around and they decided to do the same thing that E3 did, but focusing more on the indie side. At least that's from what I feel like. It was like Xbox
Yeah,
and other
it was
people
definitely
started
a higher indie influx, which I which I
exact
which I enjoyed.
yeah, I thought it was probably one of the best showcases that there was because of that. And I just recently saw the Latin American game show,
Hmm.
which was another indie showcase, and it showed a lot of good games under, and it was only an hour. Like, oh, thank you. E3 takes literally 7 days to finish watching everything, and you kind of just don't really have the time for that anymore. It's I was gonna say it's sad, but I don't really care anymore. E3 has been dead to me for 2 years now. The fact that people keep trying to bring this back up, this is what happens when people pay too much attention to Twitter. Um, it's not gonna happen. And if it does happen, it's not gonna happen to the capacity that you think it will, because at the end of the day, a lot of these companies have already adapted before Summer Game Show was even a thing. The moment EA left E3, that was kind of just like the start of an avalanche. It was like, oh wow, they can just leave and not do this. Wow, why don't we just all do that? Because that way you no longer have a deadline to keep. You don't have to be like, I have to make all this stuff ready for E3. You don't have to do that anymore. You just, hey, I'm gonna do this trailer. I'm gonna drop it whenever I need to drop it, and we're gonna get it going. Summer
Hmm.
Games Fest, I'm happy that it's around. It's interesting to see, but I also think that if Xbox tomorrow was like, we don't have anything to show on Summer Games Fest, they will easily pull out. But I think that the problem with E3 as a whole is that it used to have a monopoly on this and no longer does. And because of the increasing competition, it really can't survive because it's kind of not needed anymore.
Hmm. Hmm. A great ancient sage once said, "The future is now, old man." I think that was from Malcolm in the Middle. I don't know exactly where it's from, but I think it was still wise advice. Like E3 as a format it's a dying breed. You know what I'm saying? Even Summer Game Fest, it's not the most optimal thing, but it still gets supported because Jeff Keighley has so many contacts and he works very well within the space, so he can make a lot of things work and fit within certain constraints and confines of just the gaming industry in this period of time. But I would go even further as to say probably like 3 years beforehand. Like we felt some of the murmurs and stuff 3 years. You know what I'm saying? 3 years ago, but before like a year before COVID started. Honestly, almost four now, which is ridiculous. And when Nintendo started doing their directs and tree houses and stuff, and they just dipped off from E3 entirely, I think that was the first like little shot. I think her around the world, a latent shot, albeit because people didn't realize how effective and how popular it was going to be amongst gaming companies. At some point down the line, people were clowning it. I couldn't even throw my hands up. I was like, man, I don't even know why they're not at E3. They're doing their own direct. I don't know what that's for. And then they were ahead of the curve and they just dropped everybody off and everybody just followed suit at some point. So that's definitely one reason why companies realize, hey, we're as big as, if not a bigger platform than E3. Y'all need us. We don't need y'all. So they just went off and did their own thing. It cost too much money to be on the show floor and buy the license to be an exhibitor and all that stuff and be there and be in the show. It's too much of a waste when they can just do that in-house and save themselves so much money and time and just not be on E3's platform and still get the same amount, if not more amount of buzz, because it's just so solely focused on their stuff. That's one. to all the turmoil again with E3 internally, again, all the rising fees of having people, trying to get them on the show, and again, the rising cost of and the demands sometimes of them having these platforms and companies on their show. It's just so much stuff that went left with E3, bro. And COVID again was a big shot to the kneecap that brought it down. I think that really again slowed down its momentum, and from there, no in-person show, dropped a lot of revenue off, and people really just turned out like hey, what, we don't really care about this format anymore. And the craziest thing is E3, it's not a program anymore. It's just the essence of a season. It's like okay, like winter, spring, summer, E3 season, fall, winter. You know what I'm saying? Like in a gaming sense, it's like a force ghost now. It's like an ethos. It's a spirit. It's like a thought of something. It's like a, what I'm saying, an essence. It's not an actual thing anymore.
It's like, it's literally the only thing I can think of right now, and I promise you I'm not horny. It's like sundress season. You don't know when sundress season is. You don't know when the sundresses are coming out. There's no exact date, but when you start seeing them, you're like,
oh, it's sundress.
It must be sundress season. It's getting close. Or when you start feeling, you feel it in the air. It's not I know that on June whatever. No, because even till this day, I used to watch E3 every year. I never missed one E3.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I found out about it, I was hooked. It was my favorite time of the year.
Facts.
I never missed it. But if you ask me, any year that I was watching it, when it was, unless it was 2 weeks out, I did not have a date for you. I just knew that, hey man, it's like a Mayish, I think E3's happening soon. Is E3 happening soon? And that's when I would see it.
Sometime after school ended. That was literally
exactly. It's like, oh man, the summer's coming up. Let me watch games that I can't afford. I love, I can't express how much I love game shows. At my old age of 26, I'm starting to realize I don't have time for these anymore because they're just so bloated. E3 was probably one of the worst contenders of this, because E3 was like a week-long thing.
Yeah.
And they were always in the most inconvenient times. But outside of all that, I genuinely love, one of my dreams was to go to E3 as a kid. Was I wanted to go, I wanted to stand in line for 8 hours with a bunch of smelly, sweaty people just so I can play one game for like 30 seconds and be like, whoa, that's going to be game of the year. And then it come out and flop. I was excited for that experience. And now at my ripe age, show me the trailer, drop a demo. We don't need these experiences, or do it at something like a PAX East, a PAX West. Like that is more, I would rather go to those kind of events than to something like an E3 these days, because at the end of the day, it wasn't even for gamers, because you couldn't just buy a ticket to E3. It wasn't available to the public. You had to be a part of some a publishing, or even like you had to do something. You couldn't just be like, I work at the factory and I want to go to E3. You could not do that. You had to be connected in some way, shape, or form. At least that from the research I did when I was in high school. But it's sad, but it's kind of like, it's like me being sad about Michael Jackson being dead. It's kind of been dead for a while. I can be upset that it's no longer around for sure, but it's not coming back. I wish, no, I don't. Actually, I don't wish it was coming back. Because again, the way we consumed media, it's just not like feasible anymore. Now I can get Xbox to record a show, Nintendo can record a show, and PlayStation could all record a show. And if I was E3, I'd just be like, I'm gonna play these videos back to back on a live stream, and we're just gonna call it a day. But back in the day, you had to wait. Oh, Monday is Nintendo.
Yep.
Tuesday is Xbox. Bethesda is after them. I gotta watch that. And then Friday is Sony at 9 p.m. is when they start. And then it takes like 3 hours to get through the whole thing because there's a live band for some reason.
Yeah.
It's just not feasible anymore, and it's just not necessary anymore.
It doesn't fit today's standards of again, like you said, how we consume media. It's just so different. Again, given now the powers in, like, I'd say the in the purchaser's hands, technically, if you want to use some type of economic term, like the companies have the power. They fully realize they have the power in this situation. Like, why do they need any other platform to go on to when everybody's coming to see them? So just get their dedicated audience and come that way. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes they don't even have anything to show, so they can just do it whenever they want instead of adhere to E3 schedule of, oh, we got to be here every year showing something, and you're gonna shoehorn stuff, and it's going to be weird. So they can dodge that on one thing. Two, the fervent rise of leaking and leaker culture has also contributed to this, because how many times in recent has stuff been leaked 2 weeks before some people's own shows, let alone an E3 when it passes through so many third parties. Like, there's a lot of hoops to jump through to get an E3 show to work, and information can be disseminated really, really fast, and it can end up in the wrong hands. It can get leaked all online. There's just a bigger margin for error and just a ruining of excitement for things that people have in store for E3 shows, and rather than them just keeping it in-house and doing their thing. Again, it still happens, but it can be to a lesser extent, without the E3 presence. And and again, just us as a people, consuming, gaming information. We want it faster. We want it to be more direct. We don't want it to be dragged out. You know what I'm saying? Just when are you showing it? What are you showing? Cool. If you got to surprise me, whatever. We just want to get in there, get the information as fast as possible, get as much as possible, and then get out. It's not compatible with how we do media stuff today, and I don't think E3 got that fast enough. I think that it was still, the ESA was still trying to be a little bit greedy and try and get more money out of, all the people who are coming through as companies trying to come through and, visit the event and, do their thing. And it was just a combination of the kind of like the Kodak thing. They got outdated, they didn't update themselves, and they got too greedy, and things just changed around them. They weren't flexible enough to realize stuff was happening, and they wouldn't be the top dog unless they figured out ways to keep innovating themselves and iterating themselves to, stay at the top of that mountain. And again, I really do think it was just them being a very, very greedy and, trying to raise the rates on a lot of these companies. And at some point, the corner turned, and Nintendo first was like, yeah, nah, we'll do our own shit. And then EA is like, yeah, we'll do our own stuff too. And then, Sony hit, then Xbox hit, then, everybody else is like, you got Tencent and Sega leaving. They don't care, bro. Who are you going to have on that show floor, bro? I said it, we said this before, I'll say it again. We're going to have one old person with a random phone that has Flappy Bird on it, bro. That's the most excitement you're going to get on that show floor, bro. Like that's really insane.
Yeah.
What an actual downfall. But we said this literally years ago. For all the people who was like, oh, hashtag now my E3, crapping on Summer Game Fest and stuff like that. It's all the same, for one, and two, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. And we almost got it. Honestly, in this case, we almost got it, but nobody cares about what platform it's on. They just care about the information at this stage in the game. They just want to get the information that they want, and that's it. So I feel like E3 maybe thought their presence as a company, their presence as an actual program was more important than it actually is in today's landscape, and they overshot that. And they're going away again, man. They got it's the kind of like the zombie treatment. The first shot was probably companies leaving and stuff like that, or whatever you want to call it. And what I say the second shot was probably Summer Game Fest. It was Jeff Keighley. Jeff Keighley definitely put that last bullet in your head. I can't even lie. They definitely got that zombie treatment, and Jeff Keighley putting that final bullet, or the companies did, whichever way you want to flip it. But yeah, E3 is no more, and what was the point? All we have is a spirit, and I can only cherish the good memories, but in today's day and age, just wasn't going to work.